Welcome to the Wezesha Vijana podcast, where we explore youth employability and entrepreneurship. This is our 5th episode, and we have a very hot discussion up for grabs today. With me is an amazing guest. But before we move on to our guests, I'd like to remind our viewers, have you followed us on our social media pages? Remember, we are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on LinkedIn, we are on Instagram at Wezesha Vijana KE, and also on X at CRSKE. So please, if you haven't followed us, follow us using those social media handles. Are you ready for today's discussion? So today we have a very interesting guest and who will be taking us through the discussion around virtual reality for learning and the future of work, how we integrate VR, Miskia VR, virtual reality. I'm imagining a situation where we can hear more about how VR can be translated, particularly for our technical trades. Unaimagine mtu kama mechanic akilearn through VR, ama mtu kama hairdresser akilearn through virtual reality. That is what is happening across some of our learning institutions, and also we'll get to hear what some of our employers or our private sector actors are looking for when they engage youths in VR. So I'm very excited about today's discussion, and I can't wait to engage our guest. So let me introduce our guest today. I was very excited when I first heard about this topic. We actually engaged recently in one of our networking events, and he is somebody who has working in the VR space at the front line of addressing the education sector needs through virtual reality. He is a software engineer at Liquid Technologies, and our special guest is none other than Isaac Hussein. Karibu sana, Isaac.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Have you been to a podcast before?
Yes, this is my first.
This is your first time?
My first time, but I'm excited to share the insights.
Karibu sana. We always love first-time visitors at Wezesha Vijana podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Karibu sana. It's a pleasure. To begin us off, just tell us about your background in Liquid Technology. Tell us what Liquid Technology does, your background around software engineering and also virtual reality.
Yeah, thank you. So, Liquid Intelligent Technologies actually is a company that deals with data, and we have data centers and fiber optic cables and connections, connectivity around schools, enterprises, homes, all those stuff. And we've also been working on sectors like cybersecurity, cloud, AI, and also virtual reality. So my background is been writing codes. I'm a software engineer, so for the past few years, my role has been to build a platform where people can collaborate and work together, specifically in the industrial metaverse. Like metaverse, kind of like things work on virtual reality.
Okay. Metaverse.
It's kind of like a buzzword. Everyone, even the Gen Z, they know, all these big tech companies have been saying metaverse.
So what exactly is metaverse?
Metaverse has a lot of definitions, by the way. You'll see somebody is coming up with their own definitions, but officially it's not, you can just define it as a virtual place where people can collaborate, communicate, they can exchange, information, they can do transactions, business, so many things you can think of. That work in these immersive platforms like virtual reality and augmented reality. All of this is called spatial computing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because spatially, even our phones are spatial computing, but this one is now even more because it understands our environment. When we build technology, when a technology understands our environment, where we live, where we work, then that's spatial. It understands how our environment
Something
functions.
like AI.
Something like AI,
Okay.
something like GPS.
GPS.
You use
Yeah.
Google Map, I
Yeah.
use Google Map to come here.
Uh-huh.
So many things. So
Yeah.
now VR, spatial computing, like for instance, Vision Pro. You've seen Apple release
Yes.
Vision Pro, and all this technology that's and they closely work with AI to make it even more better
Okay.
in our daily lives.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting here. I thought Meta was just a word Facebook uses, so it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm particularly interested to hear about your journey within VR or virtual reality in full. How did this begin, and how did you see the need to incorporate it within our learning centers across the country?
If you remind me or anyone in this room, like for instance, I usually go with an example, and then, for instance, if I tell you right now to do a differential calculus, or you state some sort of theories that you learned at high school, are you going to remember some stuff there? Maybe you remember there's something called that thing, but if I tell you to do the procedure,
I wouldn't remember the steps that
so the point
even
is-
calculus 1 I wouldn't remember.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the thing is, when you have the experience, when you know how stuff is, you can, you know how stuff is get done till the end. We want, the first time I used virtual reality. Let me start with that.
Yes, let's hear about that.
I saw myself somewhere in a very nice environment. In fact, I hit the wall because I thought I was somewhere.
So you were in a room, but you were not. Your mind was not actually in the room.
In the room. So I was immersed somewhere.
Yeah, you're immersed elsewhere.
Yeah. And then I remember I used to play games in the VR. The baseball, like a bowling, this the one that you throw. I've never played that game, by the way.
Physically.
I'll tell you. The reason I'm like. So I used to play that game in the VR, and my friend called me, a few months ago, it was in January this year, called me to play, those bowling in Westgate.
Yeah.
And that was my first time.
Yeah.
I've never touched those,
Balls.
baseballs, bowling thing.
Yeah, the bowling balls.
Yeah. And they laughed at me because I told them I've never played this. And doing, through that, I used to play in VR.
But not in real life.
But niliwa beat wote.
Are you serious?
Yes, niliwa beat, nilikuwa na top scores.
Are you not serious?
Wakaniuliza huyu jamaa hajaicheza bowling. Na leo
And you understood the rules?
I understood the rules. You have to, the physics, how you do it.
Yes.
You learn through VR. So
Wow,
this is the experience. See instructions. That's called experiential learning. So when you experience something, how it's done, then recalling that information is very easy. And that inspired me to see, okay, I think there's a lot of opportunities for me to develop something for educational purposes, where a student can leverage this technology to learn something they are working on, something marketable, something that can get them something, especially in TVET, for instance, mechanical engineering, electrical, plumbing or something. If we can digitize it in VR, it's going to be a very substantial.
One of the questions I'm actually thinking is VR same to a video game? For example, something like FIFA or this other one for Grand Theft Auto. Is it the same thing or are they different things?
They are basically the same thing because they are all graphics, interactive graphics, where you interact with this thing, and through this interaction, it makes that system fun for us to engage with.
Yeah, because I can imagine, because I know a lot of men and young men who enjoy playing FIFA. Somebody will play FIFA the whole day. So now I can imagine having a FIFA-like sort of training
Exactly.
in the classroom instead of the usual boring lectures
Exactly.
or note taking. And that sounds very interesting, and I'm curious to know where do you begin, or what is the process like translating content like a career like carpentry or mechanic into a virtual reality platform so that now it's taught in a TVET? How is the process like?
Yes, we start, we engage with different stakeholders to digitize this stuff from process A to Z, for instance. We start by understanding the gap analysis, the need, the cause that has high demand, and we identify the pain points, some of the pain points, especially the industry gap, the employment opportunities. So we involve companies and the authority who are responsible in drafting this curriculum. We come in between. We see what companies need and how the curriculum is structured. We develop between the two. We develop
Okay.
between the two, kind of like an intersection.
Yeah, like an
between
intersection.
These two parties.
So we have the curriculum developers, you have you, the software engineers,
Yeah,
and we have the employers or the companies,
exactly.
and you all come together to design this.
Design this thing.
Uh-huh.
So that, because remember, we don't develop only for TVETs. We also do develop for corporate companies.
Like the in-house
In-house
training.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we understand what the procedure works.
Okay. So for example, a mechanic working for a company like Mobius, if they want to upskill
Yeah.
in their training area,
Yeah,
so you help them also develop such programs using VR.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So through this, we understand the pain points, the need, all these things that they need from the talent, and these talent are coming from TVETs, and TVETs have their own problems, So when we come in between, we understand what the companies need, and of course we don't forget the curriculum. We merge it so that it's something dual in between.
Okay.
And we're also working to identify the opportunities for employment, especially.
Exactly. That's very important.
When we see, let's say, Mobius have posts for interns or roles,
Yeah.
they mostly, look for guys from TVETs because they have technical background. And just imagine if we publish the content that is used in Mobius internally to the TVET, and TVET knows how Mobius works.
Exactly. You can imagine the transition to employment we will have
Very
in
easy.
our country, as opposed to right now what is happening is the training that is happening is not even in alignment with what the employer
Exactly.
is looking for.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And it's not even Mobius, for instance.
Yes.
We are looking actually to partner with others like Toyota, Mitsubishi, other automotive companies.
Yes.
Not only in automotive, even in other industries like plumbing, electricals.
Yeah.
Working with them, develop internal training for them, and then working with the curriculum experts to
Yes.
come in between and publish these things to TVETs.
Yes.
And I see there's an opportunity for a lot of students to learn how things get done. Simple like that.
I know a lot of our viewers are really surprised by what they're hearing. We are going to take a short break, and coming back, we are going to look at the specific examples of how a learning like hairdressing, surely, how can it be taught by a VR? Ama something like catering. How? Like seriously. And we're going to hear Isaac tell us more about specific examples that they are currently doing and how this can come more real for our viewers. So take a short break and we'll be back. So Isaac, before the break, we were talking about the process in which we can improve the learning within the classroom through virtual reality, and I just want this thing to be very practical. Could you give us specific examples of the work that you have done around virtual reality and learning and engagement with the different companies and employers that maybe we can, somebody out there, a young person out there can identify or familiarize with? Because as at now, I know a lot of people are still surprised that something like this can happen, given, first of all, how far behind our TVET institutions are and how far behind we're still, even with, modern technologies. Yeah, so you can give us and share some examples.
Yeah. So a very good example right now, we are working with Mobius. Let me start with that. Because, Mobius needed a platform where they can quickly train their employees across different places in Kisumu, in Mombasa, in Nairobi, for instance, and other counties. So we are digitizing their entire platform. Like they're releasing the latest vehicle, Mobius 3, and they wanted to have a platform where they can train their employees with the latest update that they have on the designs. For instance, a simple thing like, how are you going to operate on a front wheel system of a vehicle, for instance? How to remove the tire, brakes, caliper, brake disc, all those things. So we have successfully shipped that for the Mobius. They're using it to train the employees internally. So that's some of the work that we have done so far. It's the industry. It's a local industry. They develop something locally, so we're working with them. And there is a huge need for others. Of course, we are expanding it. For instance, like Isuzu, they also identify they have biggest problem of training because content change rapidly.
Very
and they want
true.
to train people in an experiential way rather than consuming a lot of resources like budgets, resources, materials, electricity bills, all those things. How can they put all these things? Because right now they use manuals, written manuals. You read the manuals, you do it. You read the manuals and do it. Or maybe somebody to be there to guide you how things, are supposed to be assembled. You can't find this thing in TVET.
That's true. But I'm wondering, what benefit does it offer for them, for these companies like Isuzu, Mobius, and all that? What extra advantage does VR offer to them as opposed to just the normal training that they are currently doing?
First, it's safe. You practice things in a safe environment because there have been reports where people in the warehouse, they get injured as a result of training staff or just to get learning things. For instance, cost is another thing. For instance, you need to buy materials, electricity bill, for instance, let's say welding, or even automotive industry. When you train somebody, you need to turn everything on.
Yeah, that's true. It can be very expensive.
It can be very expensive. Something cost effective. Something that can be, we usually call it repetitive task. You don't have to assign somebody each and every time to tell you the same thing now and then. We are humans. We forget something very quickly.
Yeah, I know.
You can tell me, okay, do this, and then after 5 minutes, I don't know how to do that. And then somebody is reassigned again, and that person has another responsibility to do. So the point here is focus. You put your focus completely into a particular place to learn things.
You as the student.
You as the student or
the learner.
Yeah. And finally, apart from the focus, it's fast. Business needs something quick, fast. I need you to learn things very fast so that we can do something. Even at TVET, if you learn things quickly, it will help you to become more productive.
Sure.
Rather than learning the materials or waiting for somebody to teach you. You will forget. This is an automated environment incorporated with all these agents like AI. You can use it anywhere, anytime, wherever the place you want to have. These are some of the benefits. And the ROI, these are some of the return of investment that whether the TVET institution or the companies gets. Yeah.
That sounds very interesting and that's very fantastic. Are there challenges you've encountered in incorporating VR coming from a place where a lot of our institutions or even the smaller kind of businesses are still lagging behind in terms of incorporating modern technology? So, what challenges have you faced and how have you addressed them?
One of them is awareness, because it's a very, it's a new technology.
Yes.
Getting to tell somebody virtual reality,
I
like,
can imagine everybody stares at you. I mean, having my hair learn, like if I know somebody is the one who's plating my hair learned through VR, of course I will be very hesitant.
In fact, I went somewhere, but I don't want to mention that place.
Yeah.
We were actually pitching about the VR. And
Yeah.
somebody was like, what is that? Even the word virtual reality,
I
they
mean,
don't know.
even
Yeah.
the fact that it's a gamification, a game which you used to learn. I know some adults will not take it so seriously.
So seriously.
Exactly.
And then our generation moves very fast.
Yeah.
So these are some challenges, creating awareness. But I believe as the time goes, we have new generations. They know what PlayStation is. If you
Yeah.
have played PlayStation,
Mhm.
Xbox, or all this gaming, or even mobile phone, if I give you this technology 100%, because this is something out of my experience. I gave a student TVET, in Dagoretti.
Mhm.
I went there just to see. I never taught them how to use it.
Mhm.
They figured it out by themselves within minutes.
I think it blends well with the Gen Zs and the millennials because
Exactly.
millennials used to play the
PS. Yeah.
video games,
Yeah.
PS.
Yeah.
Gen Zs have even all these more modern games.
Curiosity.
Exactly, this the curiosity beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy figured it out
Mhm.
by himself, and I was like, okay, the time is still moving, and this guy will get to know this thing, because in fact,
Yeah.
this is the audience. We are targeting this youth, vulnerable youth,
Mhm.
who need something, resources that they can be able to get and amplify
Okay.
their skills. Yeah.
That's very exciting. Before we wrap up, I'd like to hear about what is the future of VR for Kenya and for young people who are looking to transition into the employment space. So, what does the future look like?
So the future for the VR specifically, or employment sector, maybe.
The future of VR in Kenya and in terms of skills development and employment of young people.
So VR is a new technology, first of all, but it's not okay. It's new for adapting it.
Yeah.
It has been there for years, of course. So what I can say is it's not even in Kenya. It's a global thing, because, for instance, if you say what's the future of VR in Kenya, in fact, these things are made in these big countries, developed countries, and then we import it here, and then we use it, we develop for our own solution, So what I think about the future thing, if we can adopt this thing, in fact, even in TVETs, will be very, very far.
Very.
Even the number one country in the world, utilizing virtual reality to train students
In the
how to-
world.
around the world, because Kenya is using hundreds of headsets to teach students in trade schools. Can
Yes.
you imagine that?
Yeah. But there are other countries that have already incorporated
The other countries like
VR in
United States,
TVETs. Yeah.
yeah, but we will be at their level.
Okay.
Yeah. So I see this is the future, moving towards intelligent age. When I say intelligent age, are the devices that have the capability of reasoning by itself, like artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Like my phone now, I have Gemini, this Google thing, and then ChatGPT,
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah.
Intelligent age is moving. Now, just imagine when you mix this intelligent thing and VR. We can create even a magical experience with it, and it's not going to replace the existing job. People sometimes are afraid that this thing is going to replace their
actually,
jobs.
that's
In fact,
true.
it's going to amplify their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I see for the future of the VR. And the most important thing to conclude on this is the rights use cases, how it's helping people, and I'm very keen on that, to be honest, because I want to see the value coming out of that. And when we see it's helping people to transform changes for good, then we will see definitely, a lot of transformation, digital transformation, and
Yeah.
this is going to be really awesome.
Yeah, that's a very exciting vision, which what I like the most about it is number one, we are able to compete globally. We in terms of our education, which has been falling behind, let me say, to some sort of.
Yeah.
I also like the angle where you engage the companies, the businesses, and the private sector actors in developing the training programs, because that means that the training the young person is receiving via the VR is meeting the needs of employers. Because one of the challenges we've been talking a lot in our podcast is around the mismatch, the skills mismatch between what is taught at the TVET and what they get to see in their job or workplaces.
Yes.
And having all this information or word that most employers like to use, half-baked graduates.
Yes.
It's a word that has been going around, but with this virtual reality, we can be able to have more overbaked, if I can say, graduates. Yeah, and the impact that it will have for vulnerable young people who are not able to access education the traditional way. Yeah, and before we close, just what advice would you give a young person, perhaps who's interested in this trade area around technology and software engineering?
Yeah, I would say for somebody who is pursuing this thing, of course, the baseline is developing the passion for this thing. Without passion, you'll get a lot of things, because in every path you will get ups and downs. Some challenges that can come up in future or something. So the first thing I can just say is start with the basic thing. Make sure the fundamentals. If you want to pursue software engineering or writing programming things, fundamental is very important.
Sure.
Understanding the fundamental. Yeah, you do have passion. That's tick. Then you go to the fundamentals. Understand each and every fundamental. Do a lot of practice. Do a lot of practice. Have this practice of solving problems. See small problems, solve it. You see, okay, this guy is delivering the cup from point A to point B, and there's some challenges. You see, there's a challenge. Learn how to solve it using technology. Develop so many projects, whether it's gonna pay or not, but have more these projects. The more you have projects, because you have learned, you have tried to test, to develop, to solve a small problem. Now try to see how you can develop more projects, and this project will expose you to new things.
Yeah.
Oh, you've never solved this thing. Oh, there are hundreds of thousands of problems in this world.
Yeah.
So solving more and more problems will give you a lot of experience.
Yeah.
A lot of experience, and document it. Place it somewhere. Write a very good portfolio. You have done this. You have done that. All this with a link. Post it on GitHub or online. This is something you have done. And then use this portfolio to show the employers when you want, for instance, to go that way. When you want to get employed, or you can even choose another way. You can become an entrepreneur. You can open your own consultancy firm, creating websites for people, creating, solving problems for people, being contracted, being hired by organizations to do something like that, like data science, data analytics.
Yes.
All these things falls under software engineering, like IT thing, Yeah, I would advise, those are some of the steps, like I would advise somebody who is starting or beginning with this journey.
Thank you for the wonderful advice. I'm sure it will help a lot of young people who are looking to enter into this technology space.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see better changes for adopting this technology and how it's gonna move forward from that.
Karibu sana. That was a very good conversation and discussion around leveraging virtual reality for learning and the future of work. You can also continue the conversation through our hashtag Vijana Tuomoke na Skills and na Jobs and our hashtag TVET Skills in Alipa. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles at Wezesha Vijana, where we are available on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. You can also follow Catholic Relief Services on X at CRSKE. If you have any questions, please drop by those questions. If you have used VR before, or you have experience learning via VR, talk to us. Tell us, how was your experience? How did you feel? Did you feel that the learning was better vis-a-vis traditional way of learning? Let us know how VR has been able to impact your learning or even improve your experience at the workplace. That's all that we have for today. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. If you haven't watched our previous episodes, you can go back to them and watch it at a later time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in, and see you on the next one.